On this premiere episode of O'Connor Tonight, I could think of only one guest to help usher me into the Salem news world. And sadly, Paul Reubens, the actor who created Pee Wee Herman, was unavailable. But we do have the man who starts us off every day on Salem News Channel, everyone's favorite morning host, sort of, Hugh Hewitt from The Hugh Hewitt Show. Grandpa Hugh, it's good to see you, sir.
You know, O'Connor, I'm going to use that audio that you just said there, because what your audience doesn't know is that we compete head-to-head every single morning inside the Beltway, and I'm very honored to be on your premiere of O'Connor Tonight.
Yeah.
But half of our audience in the morning is asleep right now. You run the longest workday of anybody I know.
It's true. I understand. And I just want to take issue with what you said, Hugh. Do we really compete? I mean, really? No, and people need to know. I want to talk politics, but honestly, it's my first show, so I feel like I could take a point of personal privilege. I would not be sitting here today if it weren't for three men: Andrew Breitbart, Dennis Miller, and Hugh Hewitt. And Hugh, it really, I've always wanted to be on your team, and I'm thrilled to be here.
You know,
and,
Larry, let's see how the
this.
show goes before we tell people that, okay?
No. Everything you see is Hugh Hewitt's fault.
Let's just make sure we can actually get to the end of a segment before I take credit and the whole part. Andrew Breitbart is your maker. Everybody else is just an assistant.
Hugh, you have interviewed every politician alive right now, I think, and certainly every important Republican who either holds office or wants to hold office. Famously, you just had a fantastic news-making interview with former President Donald Trump. Give me your assessment, first of all, on President Trump. You do expect him to run in 24, yes?
I do. I expect him to be the nominee. I try and be objective about my political analysis like you do. I had a good long-time acquaintance of the former president tell me that if he can get out of bed, he will run. I think we can take that to the bank. I think he's the front runner, but stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. Yeah. You and I both been around long enough to know that Matt Fong is going to win the Senate race against Barbara Boxer until he doesn't. And Hillary Clinton's going to crush Donald Trump until she doesn't. So right now, Donald Trump is going to crush everybody who runs against him until he doesn't. So we'll see come 2024 who's the nominee.
Yeah. I'm wondering, though, I can't wait to see what it looks like when Donald Trump is running in a Republican primary against mostly candidates who he either hired and worked with and made history with, like Mike Pompeo with the Abraham Accords, or Nikki Haley in the United Nations, or a governor like Ron DeSantis, who, let's face it, was a huge supporter and advocate for President Trump. It's not going to be Trump versus the entire party this time along. Will he be able to play nice?
Yeah, Larry, I think he will. I think he will be blessed by having Ronna McDaniel set up a series of debates that aren't staffed by left-wing progressives from mainstream media, so that they will actually ask questions that are not designed to spark a food fight among Republicans, but actually to see if there's anything separating them on issues. If Ronna does anything, getting a bunch of debates, 12, 15, 20 debates among everyone who would be the nominee, and that they are on the issues that you and I care about, that your audience cares about, people watching O'Connor Tonight care about, then it will be a success for Ronna. And she was on my radio show this morning. I don't suppose she came by the O'Connor program.
No, I had her last week, actually, Hugh. She did me first, and then she ended up making its way down to the... Yeah.
It's not like Donald Trump. They all show up in the morning, and I recommend they come and see you. I really do. I urge them to go talk to Larry when they've got time spent on there. But she did not give a hint of favoritism. I don't think anyone will. You and I are probably both in Switzerland.
Yep.
For the duration. I'm not going to endorse anyone. Are you?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I learned that from you. I never endorse any candidate in a Republican primary because I'm a Republican, and I'm going to support who wins that primary unless they're 100% odious and in some way evil. So, no, it's got to be Switzerland.
The only time I didn't support the reelection of a Republican senator was the fellow up in Rhode Island who was worse for the party in power. What was his name?
Oh, Lincoln Chafee.
Lincoln Chafee.
Lincoln Chafee, yeah, disaster.
The only time I've ever defected. I've always supported an incumbent Republican except for Lincoln Chafee. That was a bridge too far. So there's an exception to every rule.
Hugh, as we look at these primaries, you just laid out something so critically important, that the RNC actually take control of their own debate process and not put it in the hands of John Harwood, of all people, at CNBC and other liberal media outlets. seems like a natural as we launch the Salem News Channel that we have a Salem News Channel debate of these candidates in the primaries, doesn't it?
I would like to have many of them. I think that if McDaniel and the RNC do the right thing, they will find people like you, people like me, people like Guy Benson of Town Hall and Mary Catherine Ham, and other people who are center-right to pose the questions that we did throughout 2016 and 2020. It's not hard to be fair. If the question is limited to 30 seconds or less, the questions will always be fair. But I spent a lot of time talking about this morning because Carrie Lake flipped the script in Arizona on the weekend. Some legacy media reporter asked her about being extreme on abortion, and she flipped the script and said, "How many times have you talked to Katie Hobbs about abortion on demand through the end of the 9th month?" The answer, of course, is never. So we talked about that today on the show as well.
So, Hugh, listen, you first started working with former President Richard Nixon, if I remember right. And then you worked in the Reagan administration.
When you were in short pants.
Okay, let's go with that. And then you worked with in the Reagan administration. And now that you've been in the media, you've seen every Republican candidate, every single candidate who becomes a nominee for president makes their way to Hugh Hewitt's doorstep. So you've seen the party go through quite an evolution. And I wonder if you could sort of reflect on where the post-Trump Republican Party is. It's not the same as the pre-Trump Republican Party. That's right. This is not Mitt Romney's Republican Party.
You know, Walter Russell Mead has a new book out called The Ark of a Covenant. And I interviewed him last week about it. At the end of it, he has a chapter on Trumpism. And it was the eclipse of the Sunbelt Republicanism. And I'm a Sunbelt Republican. Doesn't mean where you live. It means how you approach. Big free trader, optimistic about the country, export of American values. Former President Trump tapped into discontent with free trade. He went back to the Rust Belt. He won where no Republicans had won for many, many decades and brought a bunch of new people into the party. Now they just have to bridge their gaps and talk to each other. And, you know, we learn that every day. There are new Republicans every day, Latinos right now coming into the party by the millions. And we got to be welcoming. Trump got there ahead of everyone else, which is to talk to the working man and woman and tell them their lives will be better if you are elected. That's the key message.
You know, one other thing I'd love you to comment on here in our final minutes, Hugh, and that is sort of a new approach to Republican conservative commentary. You know, you have Kurt Schlichter fill in for you when you're not in, and you and Kurt are very different personality types, and you approach conservative politics in a different way. I'm very different than you, but we share many values. Seb Gorka is very different than all of the people listed. There are different approaches and different voices to be able to push through a conservative agenda. That's the bottom line. How we get there, we all have different approaches because there are different people listening or watching. Do you feel like there's a big tent right now in conservative media?
Good question. There is a conservative ecosystem which extends from the center right all the way to the far right. I try and cut the far right off of my show. I know you do as well. I want nothing to do with the QAnon people. But I do believe that the Republican Party has let 1,000 flowers bloom, and you can find a pundit, a commentator, an analyst from anywhere on the political spectrum of responsible republicanism, and you won't be able to match that on the left. The left marches in lockstep on every issue, not so on the right.
Hugh Hewitt, thanks for everything, and thanks for getting us started every day on Salem News Channel, and I appreciate you giving me your blessings, sort of.
Well,
tonight.
Sort of, but I do want to work on the wardrobe, Larry, but good to be on. Thank you for honoring me with the premiere show.
Christmas is coming, and by the way, next time, put on a tie. Keep it here. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.